correctly with the correct amount.
D20 Radio, where gamers roll.
www.d20radio.com.
Welcome to Me and Steve Talk RPGs, a podcast where me and my friend Steve try and help you get the most out of your role-playing game experience.
Hey folks, welcome back to Me and Steve Talk RPGs. Only one Steve this week, but I'm joined by, well, actually an honorary Steve, that being Daryl from the How We Roll podcast. Hello, Daryl.
Hello, Steve.
Hey.
Just call me Steve.
Okay. Now, you know I talk to myself a lot already.
Don't we all?
Well, but yeah, we're going to talk some RPG stuff. But before we do that, we wanted to take a minute to shout out another podcast on the D20 Radio Network. And that this week, and this will make sense as we get going, because as you know, traditionally we would shout out the podcast of our guest. But this week we're going to shout out Eberron Renewed. And you know, I'm guessing you've gotten the chance to play with some of those folk at previous Gamer Nation cons, Daryl.
I have awesome people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Eberron is an awesome setting.
it is. We've actually got a campaign going in Eberron ourselves right now.
Aha! Well, so if you're interested in Eberron, go check out Eberron Renewed. They're really cool people. They're really into Eberron. I know they've got the first campaign used 5th edition D&D. The second campaign used Genesis. And while I haven't gotten the time to listen to any of it, I believe the third campaign was going to use an original system of their GM Eric's design. At least that was the last conversation I had with him about it.
That is my understanding as well. Somewhere in one of our shout outs to Eberron Renewed, I wrote down the description that they gave, but who knows where those notes are.
Notes? What are notes? If I write notes, I confuse myself further.
For us, our notes are here's our shout out to the other shows, and here's our closing pimp our links.
Ah. Well, there you go. But yeah, that's a really cool show, and you can check that out. Other shows on the D20 Radio Network. There's a bunch of great ones. But anyway.
Now, why does that make sense now?
Well, because I decided it would be an interesting topic to talk around. I am going to call this modifying settings. And this kind of keys around, if you're an Eberron fan at all, and you've ever listened to Keith Baker talk about the setting, Keith will always say, and for those uninformed about Eberron, Keith was the original designer, conceptualizer of the setting.
Yes.
Keith will always, people will ask him questions, and he will say, well, in my Eberron. And to some, that might sound like he's being possessive of the setting. And it's actually exactly the opposite of that. Because if you ever listen to him talk about it, he'll say, well, in my Eberron, and in his context, it's like, look, when I run the game, this is how I run the world. But Keith has been very, very plain and very vocal about saying part of the design, the ethos behind the design of the Eberron setting was that they intentionally left a number of things quite vague and almost undefined, really with the intention that the game masters using it would define those things for their table.
Yes.
And I felt like, Daryl, you, because, well, you might be a little bit into this setting called Star Wars.
What? Never heard of it. Never heard of it. Not like I was talking to Nate from Tabletop Empire just this morning.
Right. So I figured, you know, it's a topic that, you know, and look, I mean, you'll have those fandom arguments forever in 3 days. But, you know, I wonder sometimes, like, it's all well and good if you want to stick strictly to the lore of the world. But
Right.
does it serve your table better to make it your own for the purposes of your table?
Oh, absolutely. That's something that we kind of talked about in one of our, I think it was our second Session Zero manifesto episode. That if you're playing in an established universe, one of the things that we like to do is lay the groundwork in Session Zero that, okay, we're strictly adhering to the lore as it's written down. We're using it as a guideline, or see that window behind me? I'm throwing the lore out it. So there's definitely a lot of that. Nick and I both, even though there's the new Star Wars canon since the Disney buyout, we liberally pull from the old canon. We throw our own stuff in. I'm not saying that I whole cloth steal entire ideas from other franchises and IPs and toss it in there. Like I wouldn't.
No, no game master will ever do that.
I'm not saying that I have a PC in that system that is just waiting for the right campaign who was raised in a Force tradition, not Jedi or Sith, that also knew the Chosen One prophecy and raised him to believe he's the Chosen One, even though he's not. I'm not saying that I made Paul Atreides as a Star Wars PC, but that is the character's placeholder name. So yeah, I do that all the time. There are little tweaks and things here and there. One campaign that we had, it didn't start off intending to derail canon. I don't remember how it happened. Nick was running this game, but after the Battle of Hoth, somehow we followed Luke to Dagobah and kidnapped him to make him help us with our mission before he actually trained with Yoda.
Mhm.
So, yeah, it
Well,
happens.
it's like the
We,
Marvel What If series.
yeah, absolutely. Marvel What If is great for mining stuff like that. Just making you just ask the question, what happened if, you took that left turn at Albuquerque?
Right? Well, think about to me, that was what made Forrest Gump such a neat movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like, well, gee, what if that's how this thing really did happen? Or got started, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, you know,
Well, like right now, one of the campaigns that I'm running, it is a Star Wars campaign. I call it Rebel Yell because it is about the Star Wars version of a local garage band
mhm,
that they're trying to become, a big hit in the music industry in Star Wars. But they have gotten involved with the Rebel Alliance. They use their travels across the galaxy to sometimes do work for the rebellion. But the name of the band is Many Bothans. So we all remember Mon Mothma's line in Return of the Jedi. Many Bothans died to bring us this information. So depending on how long the campaign runs and how it ends up going, it might have been a proper noun that this band is who got the information that the Emperor was on the Death Star and died in the course of doing so.
mhm. Yeah,
And they're the ones who picked the name.
right. And like I think the thing is that I don't know. For me, it's kind of like I think most people they like having an inside joke or this little thing that's just kind of we all have our head canon about this, that, and whatever. But I think like if you modify a setting, you do two things. One, I think especially if you do it collaboratively as a table, your whole table feels more ownership and thus tends to be much more engaged. But the other thing that
Hmm.
I think it does is like let's let's be honest here. I'm a bit of a Star Wars nerd. But at
What?
a table with say you, Chris, Nate, and Phil, I'm not a Star Wars nerd. Okay?
Right.
And
Fair.
okay. And so if we're playing, strict canon lore, I'm going to feel left out on a lot of the stuff you guys start chuckling about or going ooh or whatever, because I don't have the depth of knowledge that you do. Whereas if we're playing in our mutually built made up universe, there's a lot less chance of me feeling left out
Yeah.
or any other player, because I mean, I'm sure you experience this some with the way your group, club, whatever works, that you have players come in who, okay, yeah, they're a fan, but they haven't dedicated the months of their life to marathons of assorted media of the franchise.
I mean, I'm not saying that that is the very reason for our other podcast, Casual Nerdity's Clone Watch subseries, where one of the members who came into our group who had seen the original 3 Star Wars movies many years ago, and that was it.
Mm-hmm.
And the jokes were going over her head.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's an animation fan. So she and Nick started sitting down and watching Clone Wars, and we're recording reaction to that. We're
Mm-hmm.
recording, post-watch analysis. We have not an entire podcast, but a great big chunk of an entire podcast born of that exact situation.
Mm-hmm.
And at the gaming table, I'm kind of reaping the benefits of that same sort of thing with I just recently started a Star Trek Adventures second edition uh, campaign.
Mm-hmm.
And my 5, 6 players, I can't remember the exact number, are familiar with Star Trek. Some of them know it primarily by cultural osmosis and memes
Mm-hmm.
and haven't really watched it. And that's at first my concern with that was okay, I'm going to have to do a lot of hand holding on lore. And we're 3-ish sessions into it now. And I'm like, you know what? This is actually kind of liberating. If there's anything that they need to know, like, okay, here's kind of how Starfleet does something, I can pause and tell them. But the rest of it, it's like, I am not constrained. I know what's going on in the other series, in all of the various series at the point in time that our campaign is taking place, but we're not really touching that.
Mm-hmm.
And let's go nuts.
Well, see, I think too, and I think Star Trek and Star Wars in particular, this applies to maybe less so with Eberron, although maybe not because of the tech levels. But I think the one of the things that I find so attractive about gaming in the Star Wars universe is that it is so big, so vast,
Yes.
that you can have a storyline going on over here at the same time Luke is doing the trench run and they never have to touch.
Yep. Yep.
And
That is
yeah, go ahead.
exactly it. I was going to say the first time I ever played a Star Wars RPG many years ago was the West End system.
Hmm.
And we kind of rotated through GMs, and I was the one of the ones that rotated through. And in the sessions that I played, I came up with our own like mini super weapon,
Hmm.
and I came up with an entire new faction in the galaxy because my thought was, okay, these characters are the main characters in their set of Star Wars movies. They're not blowing up the Death Star. They're not taking down the Emperor. But here are some big menaces that they can fight and have big wins.
Hmm. Well, and I think the thing too, and this is a very very weird association maybe, but I remember it was some speaker that we had when I was in high school. It was, obviously one of those, get you prepared for life type deals,
Hmm.
whatever. But he said, people say, oh, it's puppy love. And he stopped for a second and he goes, but it's still real for the puppies. And I think
Hmm.
that applies in the context of what you're saying here in your story that, okay, maybe this battle that they're having isn't on the grand scale of the rebellion versus the empire, but to those characters, that is still an enormously monumental event.
Very much so. very much so, because yes, they were rebels and they were fighting the Empire. The mini super weapon was an Imperial super weapon. But I also created an entire faction. I was like, okay, if they want to take down an entire quote unquote government of bad guys, here's one that they can without stepping on cannon.
Mm-hmm.
And so in the galaxy, there was totally cribbed some of it from Jim Starlin's Dreadstar comic from the 80s, but there was the Holy Church of the Instrumentality, and they had their own things, and the ruler of that faction was like, okay, let's let the rebels in the Empire fight. One of them's going to win, and when one of them does, they're going to be weak, and that's when we make our move.
Mm-hmm.
And as most campaigns do, it just petered out as scheduling and life intruded.
Right.
So they never got to take down the Holy Church of the Instrumentality, but I have carried it over to other campaigns over the years. Not all of them, but some of them. Had time to flesh it out a little more too.
Yeah, but I think too, like it's one of those things that like by customizing, like I said, you just make it more interesting for your specific group because like
Hmm.
it's one thing. So we'll say, you mentioned Nate from Tabletop Empire. And so, like when Nate's doing his stuff for the broadcast, be it, was it Dark Underworld or, their actual play stuff. Yes, he's
Hmm.
telling a story for that table, but he's also putting it out as a work.
Right. A piece of entertainment for others.
Right. And I think, maybe at that point, maybe you do make a conscious decision to try to stay closer to canon lore. But in the context of, you know, you and a half dozen of your friends sitting around a table and playing this game, make it make it your own so you're interested. I mean, God, why not? Like, I don't
Oh,
know.
yeah.
It's just like, okay, so, I mean, I know you had in us chatting leading up to this, you had mentioned, some of your superhero mishmash games. And
Yes.
like, okay, so, one of your players tends to be more of a Marvel guy, and the other person another one tends to be more of a DC person, or okay, so why can't they mix up?
And in my game, back at this was my first extended RPG campaign in any system in my life. And a few of us rotated through GMing there too, because we all wanted to play. But it was in the old Mayfair DC Heroes system.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we created our own characters because we wanted to be our superheroes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the DC Heroes game, so we're starting off, we're in the DC universe. Makes perfect sense. And I, being the biggest comic head of that play group and our friend group, I was unofficially designated the keeper of the lore, which big mistake. Big mistake. Undiagnosed ADHD, especially back in the 80s, big mistake. I ended up with a big binder where I had made out a timeline, and we decided early on there's no reason that this can't be set on the same version of the DC Earth that the old Marvel and DC crossovers happened in,
Mm-hmm.
when just the first Superman and Spider-Man crossovers, the first two that they did, Batman and Hulk, New Teen Titans, X-Men, they all just like went across the river and the other person was there. They didn't have to switch universes.
Mm-hmm.
you know Superman went to New York, Spider-Man went to Metropolis. And so, okay, that's the world that we're on. Great. So all of the Marvel stuff counts too. Everything Marvel has done counts. And some of us had gotten started reading Anne Rice's vampire novels. Well, you know what? We like Anne Rice's version of vampires. They're real. There's even an in-universe explanation that Anne Rice gives us in those books for those books existing as books while the characters exist. They're written by and about those characters, and most people think they're a work of fiction. Great, got it. Okay, so we've got Anne Rice in here. Oh, hey, we've discovered this cult movie, The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai. Boy, that was fun. You know what? Buckaroo Banzai exists in our world. And you know what? So does Johnny Quest. Johnny Quest lives here. And just everything that we liked got pulled in. And most of the stuff like that, I was able to say, well, you know what? This is super easy to work in. Just this is over here and this is over here. And we had such a blast. One of my favorite sessions that I ran was a Halloween session. And they they ran afoul of the Joker, who got a hold of one of the Hellraiser Lament configuration boxes.
Mm-hmm.
And just like the Doctor in Hellraiser 2, he opened it and went into the Hell dimension, and Leviathan was like, oh no, I can work with you. And so the Joker was temporarily turned into a Cenobite with, hell chains pulling his smile into an even bigger, horrifying grin and things like that. And it was just so much fun. It started off when they first encountered the Joker after this big, basically a cross comes out with a dead and bloody Jason Todd on it. And then from off, quote unquote, off screen, off panel, since we're talking comics for the setting, the Joker's voice is, "Oh, I expected the other guy to be the one to find me. Sorry, that's not for you," and reeled it back. We just
Well, but
had a blast throwing.
I think too, in the context of superheroes and comics, and me not having the deep background that many people in this community have with that, I could be wrong here, but am I incorrect to think that especially between the big two, there's a lot of mirroring as far as characters? Like,
There can be, yeah,
if you take Batman, Hawkeye, well, I guess both Batman and Green Arrow are DC, but they're the same character.
right.
And but I mean, like Batman, Hawkeye, Punisher, Green Arrow, they're kind of the same things. You know what I mean? Just like almost, like
Batman and Moon Knight.
yeah, but but so I was thinking more originally I was thinking, and then I just literally just now realized that both Batman and Green Arrow are DC, but that Oliver Queen crosses over much more with Bruce Wayne and Punisher with Batman. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like like
kinda. I promise not to get on my Batman Punisher soapbox.
but you know what I'm saying? Like to me, as someone who's not been that deep into it on a surface level, I look at these superhero universes and go, well, okay, well, yeah, this guy is just the DC version of this Marvel guy, or at least he has these aspects of this Marvel guy and these other aspects of this other Marvel guy, or vice versa. And so why can't you just cross them over? You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like they're not
yeah,
really different in terms of game mechanics, and it's fiction, so we can play the personalities how we play the personalities.
yeah, and the weird thing about mashing both of the universes up like that with all of the other ones that we did, we hardly ever ran into characters from superhero characters from the books. We ran into the villains all the time.
Hmm.
But I had a 3-ring binder where I kept statting out characters that Mayfair hadn't statted out from DC yet, and they of course hadn't statted out Marvel characters. 3-ring binder, I was a little obsessive.
That never happens to people in this hobby.
Never,
But no,
never.
and I mean, maybe some of my outlook on this too goes back to one of my early experiences in gaming was a Call of Cthulhu Delta Green game. This back in the era when Delta Green was a third-party supplement for Call of Cthulhu
Right,
long before it became its own game system.
right.
And because I mean, at the time, like this was the second campaign I was ever in. Um, So it's Call of Cthulhu, and we're Delta Green, we're this government. Okay, cool, this sounds cool. And we would fight Daleks, and we would end up fighting a Predator. And we would run into Agents Mulder and Scully, because this is back in mid to late 90s when X-Files was a thing.
Right.
Like there was actually a few of us that used to get together and watch it every week, or try to. We would stuff like that all the time. The one character was patterned after Leon from The Professional. Because again, that at the time was a current film, not a classic. Um, you know, and it was just all the things that our GM and a lot of the people at the table really liked. So it got thrown into this weird universe that we were playing in. And I guess, in my brain that's what's normal. And I don't know if I'm unique in this, because I have found
You
myself. Go ahead.
you are not. You are not unique in that. So my first exposure to Call of Cthulhu was a friend of mine that I used to work with who ran a Call of Cthulhu campaign. That he has since gone on to. I don't know if he has any anywhere else, but he has an adventure in the Call of Cthulhu starter box.
Aha.
And but my first exposure, he would tell me about the campaign at work, and the characters. Now, granted, they started the campaign in the mid 90s, like
Hmm.
95, 96. But then they went to see the 1999 The Mummy,
Hmm.
and they're sitting there in the theater, the four of them, the GM and his three players, looking back and forth at one another, like, did has this guy been bugging our sessions? Because the characters were basically Rick, Evie, and Jonathan.
Hmm.
And that when Rick rolls out that duffel of his weapons, the analogous character to him, his player, looks at my friend Dan, the GM, is like, I want one. They stole from us. I want to steal from them. I want that. But in addition to uh, bringing in, or they didn't really bring in the mummy, but one of their ongoing antagonists, because they were dealing with apparently some time travel shenanigans in there, was did you ever see the cartoon Phantom 2040 from the 90s?
Don't think so.
So it was a sci-fi update of the classic The Phantom.
I remember the
And there
strip.
there was it was set in the future of 2040. Scary to think we're not far away from that now. And one of the villains was a cyborg who worked for the evil corporation uh, that was the overall big bad of the series. And that cyborg character was one of the antagonists in the campaign. And there were some other things in there. I sat in them one with them once on a Halloween session because I had loaned the GM my trade paperbacks of the comic Preacher,
Hmm.
and he liked the Saint of Killers character from it. So he brought the Saint of Killers in to be a villain for the Halloween episode, more time travel shenanigans. And I sat in and played an NPC version of the lead character from Preacher because they cast a ritual to summon, quote unquote, a weapon that could stop the Saint of Killers, which happened to be the protagonist of Preacher.
Ah.
So I sat in on that session. That was my exposure to Call of Cthulhu, where he's got Call of Cthulhu. It's set in the 30s. The adventure was set. The campaign was set in the 30s. He's bringing in a character from Phantom 2040. He's bringing in a villain and a guest NPC from the 1990s, and pulling from all over the place and made
Hmm.
it his.
Yeah, and you still remember it now. So I
I
mean,
do.
where if he was running, I'm just going to say it, the bog standard Call of Cthulhu, which is already weird and wild and whatever.
Yes.
But the fact that he took it and he customized it made it that much more memorable.
Mhm.
You know,
It
and
absolutely did.
And I think, it's just a thing that, like, I think as human beings, we, especially in the modern world, we recognize patterns and uniformity and whatever. Like, I'm sure you've seen those memes where, like, the inside of the words are all scrambled, but you
Mhm.
can just read it anyway because your brain just sees, like, the first and last letter and you're off to the races.
Yes, I have
And
absolutely seen those.
okay, well, I have this thing that happens to me every now and then where I will see something and my brain fills the middle in wrong. Like, I'll see a street
Okay.
sign for, like, winding way. And the first time I see it, I thought I would swear to you it said wing-ding way.
I've had
Or,
that happen to me too.
and now this is going back a long, long time, but I visited a relative in Chicago, and we're walking around downtown. And of course, this was in the early 90s. Um, and we walked past this place, and it was this, I'm assuming, Chinese restaurant called the Hunan Cafe. Well, at a glance, I thought it said Human Cafe. And I went something about, well, I thought Jeffrey Dahmer was from Milwaukee.
Pardon me while I go make a note for our Delta Green campaign, the Human Cafe.
Um, you know, But so, like, I think to a certain point, where I'm going with this is that I think as human beings mentally, if something follows the expected path, we're less prone to notice it. Like, I, how many times have we'll just say, I'm going to say this for the listeners out there, you've driven home from work and you don't remember half of the trip home because you've
Yep.
driven that route so many times. It's not that you weren't paying attention while driving, but
You're tuning
y-
out the details that you see every day because you see them every day.
right. And so if you take your game setting and you don't make it the everyday, and by the everyday I mean, you know, whatever details you want to change to make it your Eberron, now people remember it. Like I played in a short Eberron campaign that Steve ran a few years ago, and one of the things that Steve did to tweak Eberron to his liking was the way he ran Warforged was that the Warforged didn't achieve sentient, or the Warforged achieved sentience coincidentally with the morning happening,
Mm,
which, for like it, look, there's some sense and logic to that theory. Let's put it that way. And so I went, that's interesting. You know what I mean? Like, I
yeah.
don't know that anyone played a Warforged in that game, but it was one of those things that stands out because it was just different and neat. And, I think with Eberron too, so much of having heard, Keith speak about it a lot of the thought behind that design, well, let's say that this is a fact. What does that mean when we extend that logic? And I think that's why that setting is so interesting, because it's not just like, well, I want magic wizards in towers. Keith went, okay,
Yeah.
so if magic wizards live in towers, then what do the people who don't like wizards want to do about that? Or you know what I'm saying? Like, or
Yeah.
whatever, or the fact that in D&D you have all these sentient monster races. Well, why wouldn't those monster races get together and make their own country?
Yeah.
So in Eberron, they did.
Well, so we, much to Nick's chagrin, we have been peppering this kind of customization into. We haven't played it in ages. Our GI Joe Transformers campaign.
Mhm.
So, I mean, Renegade started it all because they created the Essence 20 system and they put G.I. Joe, Transformers, Power Rangers, and My Little Pony all in Essence 20, and they have published supplements on how to cross them over. So they started it all in this campaign for us. It's their fault. Nick can't blame us. He has to blame Renegade.
Mm-hmm.
So within the first few sessions, we started peppering in references because we did just a G.I. Joe Transformers campaign, and it's set in 1984.
Mm-hmm.
It's set in the heyday of the G.I. Joe and Transformers toys.
Mm-hmm.
And we started peppering little references in. I think I once again mentioned Buckaroo Banzai. So, my character was my character is an NIS officer who's on loan to the Joes. So
Okay.
he's an investigator. And I said, like, okay, oh, you've introduced me to some really next level stuff with these robots. So I'm going to call my friends at the Bonsai Institute to see what they have to say about this. I have a contact at the Bonsai Institute. We somehow bullied our way into. Nick keeps trying to make it fiction. We keep referencing it as real, that Knight Rider exists. Kit and Michael Knight are there, and we're like, and the Transformers are gonna think that Kit is an Autobot who something's wrong with him and he's stuck in vehicle mode. And Nick's like, no, they see the TV show and that's what they think. No, it's real. Because I keep making references to contacts at the Foundation for Law and Government from Knight Rider. Uh, but the biggie was we happened to have a session on April Fool's Day, and Robert and Betsy were in on this. They were the other two players in the session that day. They were in on it. Nick wasn't. So they kept feeding me opportunities. And I started acting out of character from my character.
Mm-hmm.
He was an investigator, but suddenly he's making these incredible science roles and all of
Mm-hmm.
this. And occasionally is talking to thin air, as far as anyone can tell. And, things like we had to scale a mountain, so Nick gave us Alpine from the G.I. Joes as an NPC, which was a gift beyond belief to me for this gag, because I was like, I'm looking at thin air and I'm like, we're supposed to get up there, Al? Pine? Look at Alpine, Alpine? Yeah. And the end of the session, he starts talking to thin air again. He's like, oh, okay, so this energon that these transformers have, they gave us some of the energon, and that's what the accelerator back at the project works on. And I was here to do this. Okay. And then I played the quantum leap sound effect. And I had been playing Sam Beckett the entire session.
Mm-hmm.
And Nick just slow clapped me. He's like, I didn't know about it. There was nothing I could do to prevent it. Bravo. But now you have to step up your game for next April Fools.
Well, but doing stuff like that, like, was any of your crew in on my Men in Black Lord of the Rings stuff?
Betsy was in one, and I think Stephanie and I, or just I, were in the other one.
Okay, I couldn't because I knew there was the Havoc Brigade, but
Yeah.
the Men in Black, like, to me it was just like, look, I like doing the unexpected, and I went, okay, let's do a crossover that no one's going to expect, and then
And
it
it was
hit
beautiful.
me that Men in Black crosses over with Tolkien so easily.
It does.
Like, there is one teeny tiny step in there and it all works into the Men in Black universe. And, like, I don't know. I'm going to remember having come up with the idea and run the games for a long, long time. I would hope that anyone who played in it will remember it for a long, long time.
We occasionally reference it. While we are sitting over at Nick's, we occasionally reference it, and Nick is like, I didn't get to play it, and we're like, we did.
But like seriously, like, just to have fun with your games, man. Mix match. If you can make the Here's the thing. we're sitting here having this conversation, but you've referenced stuff that you've done in the past. I've referenced stuff that I've done in the past. Look, the gamer culture is full of people who love all these assorted fandoms. And the fact
Mhm.
that we can mix and match them into the fiction of what we're doing, to me, that's one of the beauties of this hobby, right? Because you can't do that in a video game because that involves lawyers and rights and blah 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 blah, and we can just do it at the table.
We can do it at the table. We don't have to worry about the lawyers, or we don't have to worry about making it legally distinct.
Right. Right.
We don't have
Absolutely.
to have legally distinct, Batman. We don't I just watched a video about the history of the various iterations of the Tick earlier today. We don't have to have Deflator Mouse or Batman Well. We can have Batman.
Right.
Or
Oh,
we could have Batman and Deflator Mouse and Batman Well all together.
and have them do the Spider-Man meme.
Yes.
Uh
Wh- Which
See that
that's just amazing that the original characters that were created for the Tick on the Fox cartoon are owned by Fox and not Ben Edlund.
well,
But hey, that's why we have She-Hulk, that's why we have Spider-Woman, that's how I
but I mean, like I said, it just why not? I mean, it just to
if you
me,
want to do it, why not?
it can make for so much more memorable and engaging of a world to play in
Mhm.
because, your players are going, "What thing that I love is around the next corner?"
Well, and this isn't a spoiler for them because they've heard me mention the concept before. But my Star Trek players know that coming up somewhere, because as I was just noodling around with various Star Trek ideas, both for the campaign when it was eventually going to start and for Gamer Nation Con, since the next one is Star Trek themed. And I'm like, okay, what's a good, either one-off adventure for the campaign or for Gamer Nation Con? And my wife, Stephanie, for background comfort, background noise comfort show viewing on the weekends, will frequently just put it on whichever channel it is that has NCIS running.
Mhm.
And I was like, SCIS, the Starfleet Criminal Investigative Service.
There you
That's it.
go.
That's it. That's all there was to it. And so, quote unquote, NCIS will be mashed up with Star Trek.
I mean, why not?
Why not? Because it's gonna be fun. I already have two players fighting over who gets to be the Abby type character and who gets to be Ducky. They both want to be Abby and they both want to be Ducky. And it's like, you both can't be both. So pistols at dawn.
Fun fact related to this. You know the, Dr. Dre song, I think it's called Next Episode, that has that, kind of iconic intro to it?
I do not.
Um, you'd recognize it if you heard it. In fact, I think it was one of the tunes they used in the halftime show when they did the Super Bowl a couple years ago. Do you know whose album he sampled that from?
I do not.
The actor who played Ducky.
David McCallum.
Yes. I couldn't think of his name, but that intro, that beat, um, is sampled from a David McCallum album.
Interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, I even remember, I had to explain this makes her sound, less aware than she is, but Stephanie, my wife, was not aware of details of The Man from Uncle. So until I explained what it was, she didn't quite get the joke that was in an early NCIS episode where I think it was Abby asked Ducky what he looked like when he was younger, and he says Ilya Kuryakin.
Yeah, or I think I've seen that. Doesn't somebody asked Ducky and Gibbs says, "Yeah, kind of like Ilya Kuryakin or something." For some reason, I remember
I
Gibbs
don't
being involved
remember.
in that. But yes,
It sounds
yes.
very Gibbsish. Sounds very Gibbsish. Could have
Um,
been Gibbs.
but I don't know. I was thinking that was an interjection. Um, but yeah.
I just remember somebody did.
Yeah. All right. Well, it sounds like we're getting to the point of rambliness, and it is also getting into the wee hours of the morning. Um, so I suppose maybe since I didn't let you talk about all your stuff at the beginning of the show, maybe you should take a minute to talk about how we roll and casual nerdity and whatever else, even though we have mentioned it from time to time.
Sure thing. So, first up, Casual Nerdity is one of our two podcasts. It is what we call a celebration of pop culture. Uh, Most of our episodes are that Clone Watch sub-series that I mentioned earlier, but we occasionally will interject with movies, comics. Our next episode coming up, right before joining you to record, uh, Nick and I and our friend Betsy and our mutual friend Brev from the Movie Defenders podcast all went to see Evil Dead Burn. And we will be doing a crossover episode with Scott and Brev from the Movie Defenders on our next episode to
Cool.
talk Evil Dead Burn.
Cool.
It's a lot of fun. It is our more rambly of the two podcasts because uh, while we do show notes for a lot of them and Betsy writes walls o text, we just kind of go. Uh, and more in line probably with the audience for your show is the How We Roll Gaming podcast, where Nick and our other GM, Robert, and I will just sit down and approach different topics for RPGs in the perspective that all three of us are GMs, but all three of us are also players. Because in our group, it sounds very obsessive and like we're in need of an intervention. But at any given time, we probably have at least a dozen campaigns going in almost as many systems. And
Sounds like a problem I'd like to have.
tomorrow we are actually playing a one shot. Robert is running a one shot in the Witcher RPG system,
That system
and
is
it is our
brutal.
we none of us have played it before, so this is
Yeah.
going to be our first time playing it. We are looking forward to it. We enjoy some Alien RPG. We enjoy uh, some Walking Dead. And our most recent episode, we started a what's going to be an occasional feature. We call it Anatomy of a Campaign, where we take one of our campaigns that is completed or ongoing and just kind of look at how did we decide to start it? What went into uh, the prep for it from the GM side, and how did it go? Is it going the way you expected? If it's still ongoing, uh, what changes did you have to make as play started and the players got into the groove? And our first anatomy of a campaign was Delta Green Impossible Landscapes. And so we
Okay.
spent about an hour and a half or so talking about our Impossible Landscapes campaign, which we're doing a little bit of difference. I don't know how familiar you are with that particular published campaign.
I've not read it at all. I
So
know of it, but I don't know it.
there are multiple acts in it, but and we have finished Act 1 as it's published. But in between Act 1 and Act 2, there's a gap of nearly 20 years. And
Aha.
so Nick is running the published adventure, and then primarily Robert and I, but all three of us are running more Monster of the Week games, to borrow an X-Files term, that we're not covering every year in that gap, but it's filling in some of the gap.
Mhm.
Like the most recent session in it was one of those that I ran that was set on New Year's Eve 1999.
Aha.
And it turns out that the Y2K bug was accidentally a ritual that was going to summon something. And that's why the Y2K bug needed to be fixed. But stuff was going wrong on New Year's Eve that they needed to make sure that the bug didn't completely implement and summon whatever.
Yeah.
So lots of fun. We have fun with it, but Great show. Both of them can be found anywhere that you can find your podcasts, even on YouTube. And How We Roll has a whole video version where you get to look at me and Robert as we're talking, and Nick's My Little Pony avatar
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
trying to bully Nick onto camera.
No, I've played with all of you guys. You're all wonderful GMs. I've had a lot of fun at your tables, and I've had the pleasure of GMing for all of you. I don't know, maybe not all of you individually, but as a group on more than one occasion.
Yes.
So,
And we love your games that you have run for us, both individually and as a group.
thank you.
And speaking, so at next Gamer Nation Con, since it is Star Trek and Robert isn't terribly familiar with Star Trek, Robert is stepping down. If you sit in on our 3-parter, Stephanie is running part 3.
Ooh,
She has started GMing.
aha, cool, cool.
So she has said, Robert, if you don't want to, I'll run part 3. He's like, thank you.
Yeah,
So
I've tried to get into Trek a few times. It has never grabbed me really well. I don't know if I've just not found the right series or uh you
I mean,
know,
not everything is for everybody. If we all liked the same things, the world would be a pretty boring place.
right? Right? Well, I think with that, you know what time I think it is, Daryl?
What time is it, Steve?
I think it's time we play Game of the Week.
Game of the week.
Game of the week. Game of the week.
All right. So are you going first or am I going first?
I can go first.
All right.
So, for my game of the week, it's not completely out yet. I'm going to go a little mainstream, but it ties back into something that I was talking about. And that is the upcoming Justice League Unlimited role-playing game. The
Okay.
quick play is out, and the quick play is on drive-through, and I will get you a link to the quick start.
Excellent.
It's starting on GameFound in the near future. It's partially written by an awesome comics writer, Mark Waid. And just looking through it, I'm liking how it is leaning into some of the tropes of comics and DC comics in particular. Like, you don't have a GM, you have an editor.
Mm-hmm.
And you know how a lot of games these days, since the Destiny point system of Star Wars, are coming up with that player and GM currency to influence the game?
Mm-hmm.
Well, this has that. It has
Cool.
plot points and editorial points. And it has, here's what really has me anxious for the crowdfunding to start so that I can spend more money on games that are already overflowing from my bookshelves. But as a lot of people who are familiar with DC know, DC is very fond of the term crisis in relation to some of its stories, going back to the 60s when they had Crisis on Earth 1, Crisis on Earth 2, Crisis on whatever. The big continuity resetting Crisis on Infinite Earths, they have a mechanic that is a crisis mechanic
Cool.
that uh, as that player and editor currency is spent in a certain way, eventually you reach a point where someone has to roll a d20 on the crisis table, and depending on the roll, the outcome of the roll, that determines what kind of crisis hits. And looking at it, I've got the crisis table up here. There's things like power loss until the end of the issue, which is a session. The group of heroes lose their powers. Um, or there is identity crisis, or dark versions of the heroes appear, multiple crises. Roll it again, and whatever results, they're all happening simultaneously. Alien invasion, portal to the future. I want to roll on this crisis table for my players. I mean, not that you can't do something like that in any other system, but it looks like it is leaning into and embracing the things that make comics what they are, and DC in particular what they are. They're just having lots of fun bringing a DC flavor back to RPGs, which hasn't been there for 20 some years at least.
Yeah, well, now didn't um, Eminem have a license for at least some of the DC characters for a while?
I'm not sure. I know that I seem to recall in the early 2000s seeing a DC themed RPG on the shelves, and I never picked it up. So I don't know who made it. It obviously didn't last terribly long. Uh, I have a soft spot in my heart for the old 80s DC Heroes system. Just
Yeah.
'cause I mentioned it earlier.
Well, no,
It was the first extended campaign in anything that I had. But
Margaret Weiss made
I
a
think
DC game for a while, didn't she?
I know that they had some Marvel stuff out
Or maybe that's what I was thinking
using
of.
they had some Marvel stuff out using Cortex.
Okay, maybe that's what I was thinking of.
But I
Um,
I don't recall seeing a DC one since like the early 2000s. That's not to say there wasn't one. I just wasn't aware of it if there was.
yeah, that's fair. Now, I thought Mutants and Masterminds had some DC content at different points, but I
I
could
don't
be.
know that they have I don't know that they have official DC content. I know that the Sentinels are very thinly veiled DC character. Well, DC and Marvel characters be, because we're playing that too. In Mutants and Masterminds, we're playing the Sentinels right now. So yeah, did I mention about a dozen campaigns in nearly as many systems? Insert the How I Met Your Mother intervention GIF here.
All right. Well, that sounds really cool. We'll throw, yeah, like always, there'll be links to this stuff down in the down below part. Whatever it is on whatever platform that, because like how we roll, we're on all the podcatchers, and there's an
Yep,
audio version on YouTube and all that happy crap. But so if that's all you've got, I'm going to hit you with my game of the week.
hit me.
So this is something I stumbled across um, today, actually, and it's only been out for about 10 days as we record. A little bit more than that when this hits the air, but not much. It's a game called Patriot Spies, and
Hmm.
it is a Revolutionary War RPG.
Okay.
Now, here's the thing: this is from Skirmisher Publishing, and it's part of their Tribal Size RPG line. Now, I don't know. It says it's 146 pages in the download. It says there's a 48-page
Hmm.
rule book. It does include where is it? Where is it? Where is it? It comes with one adventure scenario along with guidelines for character creation, advancement, etc. But it's diceless.
I don't know that I can get behind that. I need my click clack math rocks.
You can still play with your click clack math rocks, Daryl.
Okay.
But like it's based on the works of uh S.W. O'Connell's Yankee Doodle Spy series, which I guess it says they are espionage historical novels.
Okay.
Which I've read some historical fiction that was quite entertaining, and I don't know, it just seems like something new and different that I don't ever recall seeing a game set in that era.
I don't think I have either.
The PDF will set you back all of a wondrous $5 currently. It's tagged as, historical, family gaming, etc. So, I mean, hey, you figure you get the rule book, adventures, and there's got to be a lot of other material because,
To finish out those pages.
yeah, like you've got 98 pages to fill up with other stuff. Now, I'm sure you get a few pages out of, character sheets, but if it's a diceless game, probably means there aren't terribly, like long. It's not a cyberpunk character sheet with rows of skills or a Call of Cthulhu sheet. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So I,
It's Everyone is John, where it's a business card.
well, it might not be quite that brief, but that was a fun night, huh?
Oh yeah.
Oh my. But yeah. But yeah, so like I said, this thing, is Patriot Spies. It comes with an adventure called Thither and Hither. It says it's a tense mission across Long Island during the early days of the Revolutionary War. So, it comes with, it says sample characters, rules for creating and improving characters, and guidelines for ongoing adventures. Hey, for $5, I'm sure we've both spent more money on games that we'll probably never use.
I'm sure that I have. I'm not looking pointed. I am not looking pointedly at my Stargate SG-1 core rulebook.
I think we have a mutual friend who actually worked on that book.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I believe Brett worked
Bought
on
it.
that.
Now I'm gonna have to grab it and look.
I know he was at least like somewhat involved, I think, or maybe not. Maybe I'm just misremembering. Maybe he was just interested in it. I don't know. But
And
yeah.
I can't find where I put it. So I said my shelves are overflowing, and they are, and it
I still
got
have to
pulled
get
out
a
and
corner
stacked
to put
somewhere.
my shelf in to then see how overflowing it will be, because there's currently boxes and stacks.
Well, I was about to buy a new bookshelf for the overflow to start going on to, and well, my wife got a new job, and after her first 90 days are up, she'll get to work from home 2 days a week, and where I was going to put the shelf is where her desk currently is. So that's not going to happen. I will
Yeah,
just
and
keep stacking.
I won't talk about my collection of digital gaming materials.
I won't either.
Because I
I
just
won't talk
hit
about
properties
mine.
on that folder, and it's way bigger than it has any right to be.
Been there. Don't ask me about my 3D print file folder.
Well, those are big files, though. PDFs aren't usually that big of a file, or at least I
I
would
I
assume.
have I have an entire network drive that's now dedicated to my 3D print files.
Oh, that's right. You're a tech person. You can do that network server thingy where I would just go, yeah.
Yeah. Reinsert the How I Met Your Mother intervention gif.
It's all good. All right. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to come and have this conversation with me, Daryl. It's been a lot of fun.
It has been. Thank you for having me. We need to get you over on our show sometime.
Yeah. Well, if I wasn't always at work, I would happily drop in and contribute some of my madness. Uh,
We'll figure out a way to make it work one of these days.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Mhm.
We might be Nicholas, because I'm surprised that Nick made it through the movie that ended at 10 o'clock. Oh, wait a second. I'm on your show. It's our show where we bully Nick at the end.
It- Nick Nick takes a lot of flack, and Nick is wonderful.
He d- he
But
is. We love him. We love him to death. Every so often, if we feel like we're getting too flacky on him, we pause. And like, Nick, if it starts to feel real and not like we're just playing with you, tell us.
yeah, I also
Because
discovered. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, because we wouldn't take the effort to tease you if we didn't love you.
Yeah, no, Nick is fun. Although I did realize Nick has a habit. Nick and I share a habit, and I now realize how disconcerting it is when I do it to other people.
Oh,
Nick and I do this too. While we're thinking, sometimes we'll, especially I do this gaming, I will stare right next to a person's head while I'm thinking. And in the Delta Green game that I played with Nick GMing, I don't remember which. Uh, Actually, it would have been at this past Gamer Nation Con, I guess.
yep.
Um, it happened. He did it adjacent to my head a couple times, and it was just kind of, is he expecting me to do something?
That, but did you get broken Nick face?
That happened more. The broken Nick was more, I think, during the course of the movie trivia thing where you and whoever it was beat the crap out of me and Nick and whoever else was involved.
Well, we have there is a look that he gets that we call broken Nick face. We haven't gotten it out of him in a while because we stopped actively trying to get broken Nick face because he knows to expect shenanigans from us, and we do this we do that so much that one more plug on our merch store, we just dropped a new t-shirt that
I
says
saw those.
we've shenaned once, we will shenan again.
I really should
But
go get
yeah,
me one of those.
merch.howwerollgaming.com. He says in his best game show host voice. But no, the broken Nick face will, when we zig and zig and zig and he wanted us to zag, he'll just get this look like he got a 404 error. And he's now buffering, trying to figure out where he's going to go from there. A couple of times we've broken him so badly that he walked out of the game room. Uh, the game room is upstairs at his house. He's walked out, closed the door, screamed, gone downstairs, and come back up cradling a bottle of vodka.
Well, you do pick on him a decent amount, but it's all in good fun. So
It is in good fun. Like when one of our Star Wars games, there's a broken signature ability for the spy called counter espionage, where if you succeed a ridiculously low roll for what it is, you can foil the plan of an enemy intelligence operative, and they don't have to be there. You just have to say how you're doing it. Now, it's subject to GM veto. If you can't adequately explain how you're doing it, it's subject to GM veto. I rolled it. We were in an Imperial facility that had to do with cloning. We're in a big firefight. And it's like, okay, rolled it. And Stephanie is off fighting a giant monster that they've cloned out in this habitat solo because, well, that was her character. And I was like, okay, well, we are firefight. In the firefight, one of our blasts hit the door controls for one of the subject cells. And as the smoke clears, we see a small figure approach and come out of that cell. And I drop down a fully painted Grogu miniature. It's like, and he comes toddling out, and he is going to do the same thing that he does years later, timeline wise, to the Rancor on Book of Boba Fett. And he's going to calm his buddy, the monster out there.
Hmm.
And that's, Nick left. He screamed. He came back with the vodka, and he looked at me. And he's like, "I'm only letting you do it because you have the mini." So, yeah, he's not. Robert's GMing tomorrow, so we won't get to break him. Might have to try to breaking him next week at Fallout.
Well, I think with that, I think it's time for us to sign off.
I think so, because I have rambled on even more.
No, but again, like I said, thank you so much, Daryl, and to everyone out there listening, thank you for listening. Check out all the links down below, be it for just websites for How We Roll, Casual Nerdity, D20 Radio, our Discord, our Patreon, etc., and so on. Check that all out, and I think with that, just want to remind everyone to be kind to each other and get out there and play some RPG.
Intro and outro music by the band 12 Noon. You can email us at meandsteverpg@gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter and RPGs. Find us on Facebook at Me and Steve RPG Podcast. On Discord at Me and Steve RPGs. And as always, all of these links are in the show notes. Thank you, and be kind to one another.
How much for the cigar?
Cigar, $20, dog. You gotta go down the street to the store and buy that.